Hello and welcome back to the True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
We got a really fun case this week. An undertold story here. This guy kind of slips through the cracks. I'm not sure why, because he's fascinating. There's a lot of things about this guy that just kind of make him interesting to me.
It really is. Definitely, this will probably be the funnest serial killer episode we've done in a while. That sounds weird. It really does sound weird to say that, and I'm really surprised he's not covered more, and I guess because his crimes aren't so brutal, right? They're not so, disturbing, whoa. They're not...
He kills the way that, the mob kills. A couple shots to the back of the head when you don't expect it type of murders. Not that...
Right.
Not that we're taking anything away from the victims. It's horrible. It's tragic.
Absolutely.
But it's easier to consume.
Yeah, this is not the Chicago Ripper crew.
No, yeah.
That one's brutal.
No one's being mutilated while they're alive or anything like that.
This guy kind of
But he was also a thief. His thievery crimes are also entertaining, and also just he's an entertaining dude in general. He was pretty much a bad crook. He gets caught nonstop.
Oh, yeah, but that doesn't deter him at all. That doesn't deter him at all.
No, and then there was a certain level of taunting the police that we get into, and I don't know. This guy's bizarre. And
when it came to conflicts in his life, he kind of had a Carl Panzram approach. You know, it was just might makes right.
Nip it in the bud.
Fuck this guy. I'm going to off him so it doesn't cause me any problems in the future. Yeah, he was kind of
when in doubt, just
that way.
Shoot a motherfucker, basically was his mindset.
Yeah. But
I think he might have stole a few dollars from me. When we went to Burger King that time, I don't think he gave me all my change back, so he's done. I'm going to shoot him in the back of the head.
There you go. Yeah, I can't chance that. Type of vibe. If he's still in that, then he's probably still in other things.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That is the mindset. That being said, though, he had a lot of girlfriends over the years and friends that were women, and they all spoke really highly of him, which was weird considering his life was just filled with crime. I guess some women like bad boys, but
he had a respect for women. He had certain stipulations, certain lines in his life that he would not cross. One of them, being violence towards women, and then another one being drugs and alcohol. He was totally off drugs and alcohol. And when we talk about his upbringing, I think a lot of that shit will become clear. He was obviously more connected to his mother than his father. He blamed his alcoholic father for a lot of stuff. So, we'll get into all that stuff, but he is definitely a serial killer like none other. I mean, still a serial killer by definition, but different, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Doesn't hit the same. I mean, his motive was financial and not getting caught.
Right.
There was no sexual element. To his crimes.
Right.
But, he was just different in general. Like you said, straight-laced, no drugs, alcohol. Honestly, pretty jacked. He was really into working out, fitness, and weightlifting, kind of meathead stuff.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Ironically claimed to be a vegetarian, though.
Yeah. Do you believe he actually was?
No, I don't think so. But, I mean, maybe. He had some weird convictions, and he was in great shape. He was pretty fucking lean.
There are those quote-unquote vegans and vegetarians that as soon as they have a few drinks, they go to Taco Bell. You know what I mean? Maybe he was one of those. Then again, he didn't drink, so...
There you go.
When they're vulnerable, sometimes they break their code a little bit.
Right. Maybe he stuck to it.
I literally knew a girl that she was hardcore vegan during the day, raw vegan. And then one time we were drinking and it's I want a taco. We went to Taco Bell.
Well, listen, technically you can eat Taco Bell meat. It's only 40% meat. So
that's what I was going to say. It's sawdust and who knows what, but...
Yeah, you're fine. I don't think that's even real meat.
Right. All right, let's get into this.
You guys know here at True Crime Guys, I usually try to poke a little fun at the killer in the intros. But this week I'm going to do something different. In the spirit of being completely transparent with these people that we cover, this week Gary Evans is a serial killer that is quite different from others. I wouldn't say he's more lovable. He's still a piece of shit. But I couldn't help but notice the overwhelming amount of positive quotes from people in his life. So I'd like to share a few of those quotes with you all before we get into today's story. So without further ado. Gary is a woman and kid protector. He was very affectionate and sweet to my daughter. He liked to play Nintendo with her. He was always happy, always energetic, and he made me feel good. We called him Owl, the wisest. He gave me the courage to go out and make a new life for myself and my son. This man made me believe in myself again. I was going down the tubes. He gave me back my self-esteem. I could never repay him. It's night and day, good and evil. I feel so much sympathy for those victims, but can't envision him as a murderer. How can he be so kind, yet so brutal? I started to like him as a friend. He was easy to get along with. He would lay on the couch and not talk. He liked swimming and laying in the sun and relaxing. He bought me things to make me laugh. A stupid metal flower for $15. He'd start laughing, I'd start laughing. But I protected him all those years. But how was I going to protect him when he killed my boyfriend? He had nothing to lose. He wanted to go out with a bang. He wanted to win. And I will leave you all with a quote from Gary himself. It comes from a letter Gary wrote to his lawyer just before his death. Stars surround me. In peace and love are mine. They cannot be taken or touched. I win.
All right, our case this week is Gary Evans, a serial killer you've probably never heard of. And the book that we got for this case is called Every Move You Make by M. William Phelps. Fantastic book, really long, really detailed, gets into all the nitty-gritty details of what made this guy a terrible upbringing, playing a big role in it, I'm guessing. He almost gets I almost get the vibe that this dude, had he not had an absolute awful upbringing, maybe had he had some proper nurture in his life, he might have been gone on to do some great things, because he was odd in so many ways, but also driven, clean, like no drugs, no alcohol. Like maybe he would have been a really good athlete, or maybe would have, who knows what he could have done. But
yeah, possibly.
With the upbringing that he had, he was likely to end up going down a bad road, which he did.
Right. And his influences too at a young age didn't help. The groups he got around early on didn't help him out none. But like you said, like his drive and his ambition, about damn unmatched.
Yeah. So he was born October 7th, 1954 in Troy, New York. He shares a birthday with Simon Cowell, Vladimir Putin, and Mookie Betts. Quite a group.
Poor Mookie. Why does he got to be in this group?
I know, right? Getting overshadowed.
Mookie Betts, man. One of my favorite baseball players ever, probably. Dude is so fucking
probably
cool.
the most likable of the three. I think that's safe to say.
Oh, yeah. No doubt.
I don't know who's less likable, Vladimir Putin or Simon Cowell.
Oh.
That was awful,
a true,
fucking bloody awful, mate.
That's a true statement, though. A lot of people
podcast is trash.
Absolute trash. Absolute trash.
And his stupid turtlenecks.
I'm bleeding.
I hate
from the
turtlenecks.
ears.
Men shouldn't wear turtlenecks. I don't know. Maybe that's rude to say, but
yeah, unless you're just an extremely established artist. You know what I mean? Like once you hit a certain level, you can wear whatever the fuck you want. But just like, I don't know.
He's in the turtleneck stage of his career. He's made it. He's made it SI Hall of Fame.
Actually, I see him wearing those V-necks all the time with a little bit of chest hair.
Oh, V-necks.
Showing.
Maybe that's what I was going. Yeah. I don't like V-necks either.
Yeah, he's always rocking the V-necks, the super tight V-necks.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't wear turtlenecks. He wears V-necks.
No. Yeah, he's the V-neck.
And they're always baggy. It looks like an old shirt he picked up off like out of the dirty clothes and threw on. It's like, dude, you're worth like probably 7 figures at this point, or 8 figures. I don't know, like multi-millionaire.
Right. But that's the point, though. Once you get that level, and you're such a genius, your clothes don't matter anymore.
He's trying to put it out there that he doesn't even have to try. He's that good.
Exactly. Like, have you ever heard that Mark Zuckerberg wears the same thing every day? Like, he has like a bunch of navy blue shirts and khakis, like he works at Walmart or some shit.
He's such a fucking creep. He looks like a fish. I can't stand that guy. His face just like I can't even look at it. I like turn away in disgust when I look at him.
How dare you talk about MetaMark that way?
It has more to do with his personality and like
lack thereof.
Ugh.
He doesn't have a personality, bro.
He wants to own him, and a few other billionaires just want to own our souls. Like,
yeah,
it's not enough that they're that rich. They've just got to like. I need your every moment to be somehow in the Facebook universe. It's got the metaverse. It's got to be, that's where he's headed. He's like, he wants people to wake up and just tap in, just be connected into him. And he's just seeing the dollar machine rack up as everybody's using his products all day, every day. And their life is revolving around it. That's their goal.
Yeah, it's damn scary, but it's happening. I mean, he's creating his own currency. You can already shop for whatever you need on Facebook. Like, it's damn scary, dude. It's connected to Instagram, so you can't even hide over there. Don't even think about that. You ain't hiding on Instagram.
Yeah, they own Insta.
Yep.
Dude, if I get how addicting all these apps are and stuff, and I didn't mean to go down this road. We're here to talk about a serial killer, but like one thing I do is I know the draw. I know how addicting it can be. I have Instagram, but like I put mine in a folder in the back of my phone to where when I open my phone, I don't just see it and automatically click it. There's just that magnetic force that pulls your finger towards the app to look at it again for the 30th time that day. You don't need to. Put it in a folder somewhere to where when you check it once or twice a day, you have to go look for it and get it. That's a little life tip right there, life hack.
That's what I do too. I have mine in a folder as well as all of my social media. It's in a folder labeled podcast. And like you say, it's not on my front page of my phone. It's on like my third page and it's sitting there. And then when I click on that, I just check everything with the podcast, and that's it. And I get off. I try not to just spend hours scrolling or even minutes. If I catch myself in a mindless scroll, I'm like, no. We got to get back to life here.
Yep.
Got to get back to it. We got to get back to the story.
That's right. Yes. So Gary Evans was born in 1954 in Troy, New York. His parents, his mother was Flora and his father was Roy Evans. And he also had an older sister named Robbie, who he would be very close to due to the fact that they both shared the same traumatic experiences in their household. This is up there, like with as bad as we've seen from a childhood home. Because both parents, a lot of times there's like the good cop, bad cop thing going on where, we study a serial killer and like they had one parent that was just awful and the other one at least, was somewhat normal and tried to nurture them a little bit. This is like coming at him from both ends. So his father was extremely abusive and an alcoholic, and his mother had some serious issues as well, attempted suicide multiple times in front of the children. According to his sister, Robbie, at age 7, Gary actually grabbed a butcher knife and tried to stab his father while he was beating his mother. So it was that bad that Gary was concerned for his mother's safety and tried to stop his father with a knife.
Didn't this exact thing happen to Larry Eiler? I think it was Larry Eiler who...
It sounds familiar. I don't remember which case it was, but yeah, that does sound familiar.
Yeah, and there's been another serial killer, maybe multiple ones, who have tried to save their mother from an abusive husband or boyfriend, and then ended up getting hurt themselves.
Wasn't Gary Green? Wasn't there a similar thing where he was killing the children and one of the siblings tried to stop him?
Oh shit, Gary Green. Yeah, the boys stood up to him.
God, what a monster that guy was.
His two stepsons stood up to him. Oh my God. Yeah, you want to hear a terrifying story? The monster Gary Green.
Sounds bad.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and as we mentioned, the mother was no better. Flora attempting suicide multiple times in front of the children. On one occasion, Flora had a gun to her head while Roy wrestled the gun away. So their father wrestled the gun away from her. However, the gun went off at some point, and it's unclear whether it was intentional or an accident, but the gun went off, striking Flora in the shoulder and almost taking her shoulder off.
Yeah, I heard some people explain it in a way that made it seem like Roy was getting aggravated with Flora and maybe even was like, oh, you want to die? Well, here, let me help you. Let me show you what that feels like. And then shot her in the shoulder, I guess maybe knowing that it wouldn't kill her, but I mean, a shotgun to the shoulder.
Yeah.
You're fucked for life.
Yeah.
I mean, how does that arm even function?
Now, if you wanted to kill yourself before, you're probably going to want to kill yourself even more because you're in pain all the time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I've also heard that Flora brought home animals to kill and slaughter in front of the children so they could see where food comes from.
Okay, a little bit of Ed Gein shit going on here.
Yeah, that one's a touchy thing because like a lot of young kids on farms get this same upbringing, where they see chickens get slaughtered, they see cows get slaughtered, all that stuff.
Yep.
That's just part of growing up on a farm. This is a little bit different, and also I think you have to take into consideration your kids. Like we've talked about it a bunch of times. Not every kid's the same. My son, at almost 5 years old, could probably see us slaughter a chicken and he would be fine. My daughter right now is not ready for that. She's almost 3. She's too sensitive right now. Like, I think that would really traumatize her. So you have to take that in, each kid, their sensibilities into consideration with that. But
No doubt,
it sounds like the
absolutely.
way that the mother was, this was more intentionally to traumatize them to me. Like, just judging off her other actions that she does.
Yeah, it could be. Or it could have been just the food was a lot cheaper. I mean, food's a lot cheaper when you buy it live, if you're counting by the pound. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's a lot easier to pick up a few chickens, live chickens, and kill them and live off of them than it is, to go buy meat in the store. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you said, maybe it was just intentional, just to make a statement.
Yeah. This next part is bizarre in so many ways. Also, Flora allegedly had sex at the doctor's office with the doctor, with the kids just outside the door so that they could hear what was going on. So she's cheating on her husband at the doctor's office with her children
Wow.
hearing everything just
Going
through
for
the
another
thin walls
checkup?
of the office.
Going for
Yeah,
another
right?
checkup again today, honey?
Why are we at the
Yeah.
doctor's office multiple
don't
times a
know.
week,
Just-
Mom? And what is he doing in there? You're always screaming in there.
Right? I don't think he's making you better. I don't
Right.
know what's going on.
Although you always seem to come out happy.
I was about to say, you do come out in a better mood, so maybe. It's like
That's
some
weird,
John
right?
Redcorn shit from King of the Hill. That's some healing tactics, bro.
Uh-huh.
You know?
So this next part is just really messed up. But Gary claimed that his father also had raped him when he was 8 years old. There was some details about him being handcuffed in the basement by his father.
Oh my.
Yeah, and if you wonder, how he went on to be a career criminal for the rest of his life, it's actually surprising that there was never a sexual element to his crimes when you consider that he was raped by his
really
father
is.
at 8.
Yeah, he hated that man though.
Yeah, he hated his
God,
father.
he
big
hated
time.
him.
I wonder why.
I mean, I'm
Constantly
just,
abusing his mother, raping him.
but I mean, I think his hatred was so extreme that he was like, I'm going to be nothing like this man.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to
I
be
don't
clean.
care.
I'm never going to drink a drop of alcohol in my life. I'm never going to
Yeah.
abuse women.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll shoot some men for sure, but never going to touch a woman like that.
Apparently that's what he took from his upbringing.
Yeah. So Gary would begin stealing at a young age. At the age of 8, he was caught stealing jewelry worth about $1,000. Later on, during his school years, he began repeatedly stealing small items such as books and comics. In addition to shoplifting, which it earned him this reputation. He became known as like the neighborhood con man thief.
Yeah.
A reputation that he would keep throughout his entire life. Everyone knew Gary as this.
And this is common. This is the beginning of the escalation of criminality right here.
Yeah.
This is so typical.
In 1968, when Gary was 13, he moved in with his sister, who had been briefly married and since divorced. So she was several years older than Gary. She had moved out of their family home, gotten married, and she picked a man much like her father that was drunk and abusive.
Yeah.
And they would get divorced, and Gary would get out of his house, his childhood home, and move in with his sister for a much better environment.
Wow. So there you go. So that explains another good relationship he had with a woman right here. Or
Yeah.
maybe the number one relationship that he had with a woman growing up, which would be his older sister, which makes even more sense. Because
Maybe that trained him to treat women well because his sister always looked out for him, his older sister.
Exactly. Exactly. She was more of like a mother figure to him while his mother was doing whatever and his father was beating her. He
Yeah.
had this older sister who was probably caring and took him under her wing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
So later that year in 1968, their mother Flora got divorced finally from their abusive father, and she would move in with them as well. So now it's Gary, his older sister, and his mother living together.
Family's back together.
Yeah. And it would last a little while, but in 1970, Gary was arrested for the first time after being caught in the act of robbing someone's home. He would spend several months in county jail. Meanwhile, his mother would eventually marry and divorce 4 more times. So she would live with them briefly before finding a new man, moving in with him, getting divorced again. And eventually she would meet a woman and switch over. I guess she figured it'd just be easier to be with a woman
Okay.
since being with so many different men didn't work out. And she would move with this woman to upstate New York and not be seen for several years. We'll hear about her later.
Okay. We'll check back in.
Yeah, in the early to mid 70s, when Gary was in his early 20s, he moved into an apartment with 2 old neighborhood friends, and that plays a big role in this case. So these 2 friends he knew growing up, Michael Falco and Timothy Reisedorf, they knew each other from the hood, and they would ultimately, in their early 20s, get an apartment together. I think this is kind of like every young man's dream, every young woman's dream is like as soon as you get old enough, you move into an apartment with your friends, kind of like the show Friends,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so unrealistic, but yeah.
Right. Sometimes
that
it
is what
actually
everybody
happens.
imagines. Yeah, I didn't get that. I didn't get that opportunity. I got married young, so my first house was with my wife. I didn't have that opportunity to share a home with roommates and shit. Not saying I think I'd like it. I don't know.
Right. I had
Possibly.
the best of both worlds. I didn't actually do it, but I hung out at friends' houses or friends' apartments that they were all living together. So I would just go
Yeah.
over there, pop in, and it was just a disaster. Beer cans everywhere. I'd go over
Oh,
there, play
yeah.
some beer pong or whatever for a little while, and then I'd go home to my house, that I shared with my wife, kind of like what you were saying.
My nice clean house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So this apartment was actually around the corner from their childhood home. So just kind of extending the fun times of their youth. And this would also become like a center point of a criminal enterprise because the three of them would start thieving together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit more about Gary's personality, people's thoughts about him and what he was like. Over the years, he dated and befriended several women, most of which talked fondly about him later on, even after learning about his crimes. A girl named Joanne dated Gary on and off for 8 years, and she gives some insight into his personality. Quote, he was like a 10-year-old, subsisting on gallons of milk, boxes of Cocoa Puffs, and chocolate chip cookies. He was 5'6" and built like a tank. He was jacked. Like
He was. And off Cocoa Puffs and chocolate chip cookies, I'm
yeah,
impressed.
right.
But that's the advantage of being 20, though.
I was gonna
Like,
say, dude, young men, if you're
Yeah.
like really active, you can eat whatever the hell you want and still
Whatever
be
you
jacked.
want.
You know, if you're lifting weights and eating Cocoa Puffs and you're 20, you're probably gonna
Yeah.
be jacked.
Bro, I used to like eat 2 hot dogs and drink a Sun Drop and then go pitch a 7-inning baseball game, bro. It was like no big deal. Now, if I did that, I'd be barfing in like 10 minutes.
I know, right?
Like,
I
it's
know.
so disgusting. But yeah, our bodies are built like fucking tanks on the inside when we're young.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but freaking Gary was like a tank on the outside as well. He definitely worked out and did some shit.
Yep.
He had to have.
Yeah, I mean, he might have been doing steroids. Who knows?
Oh, that's true. That's true. That wouldn't be something that came out, especially not during this time.
Right. That's one of those things that you realize far more common than you probably think. Like, I have a friend who not long ago started doing steroids, and he's just bringing up how like so-and-so does them, so-and-so does them. Like, it just seems like if you're not in it, you don't realize it, but like tons of people are. It seems like cocaine's the same way. Like if
Yeah.
you're in that world, like you realize, like, holy shit, way more people do this than I thought.
Oh yeah.
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 But,
I don't know how they afford it, but yeah.
I know, right? No interest for me. I'm good.
It's one of those
On
things.
both,
It's like
really.
I don't care to buy some myself because I know once I open that door, it's going to be very hard to shut.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Maybe when I get a little older, I'll do some TRT. Just replace what I lost testosterone wise, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
but not cocaine.
There's always tomorrow. Oh, cocaine? No, I'm good. I'm out on that. No need for that. I'm already wired up enough as it is.
Yeah. I'm
I don't
good.
need
I'm
any,
good.
I need downers, if anything.
I don't need anything else to rely on.
Right. So Gary was also known to he was good with younger people too. He was kind of like a grown up kid himself, and like
Yeah.
So his older sister had a son, and he was known to like skateboard and jump on the trampoline with his nephew. He was like the cool uncle.
Nice.
He was known to them as quiet, gentle, and caring. He liked drawing mountains, writing poems about freedom, the stars, and love. And according to his close friends, despite his criminal activities, they considered Evans to have a complex worldview and philosophy. He was a vegetarian who never drank or smoked.
Wow.
So like a bit of like
yeah.
a pacifist in a way, but also murdered people and robbed.
Right. Yeah. He definitely had 2 sides, like most people.
Yeah.
But his 2 sides were vastly different.
There's these
Fast.
dudes that like draw these lines, right? Like robbing jewelry stores or people like or drug dealers or whatever is totally fine, but like I would never touch a woman. Like you're a scumbag if you do this or that. But like doing
Right.
these things that other people consider to be wrong, not a big deal to them.
Right.
Who
He
was the
a
hitman
lifetime-
that we covered? That it was the same kind of like drawing these lines. I guess like mafia hitmen have the same kind of thing too.
Yeah. There was a
Where it's
guy
like they
we
view
covered.
themselves as having these morals, but they also like do heinous crimes as well.
Yeah, there was a guy we covered in Detroit, Vito
Vincent
Smithers,
yeah,
something like that. Vincent Smithers or something like that.
Smothers,
He-
yeah.
Yeah, he was like that. where he was a hitman and just
But he would only
people
kill
who
drug
his
dealers,
contract
right?
to hit.
He would only
Yeah.
he would only kill career criminals as well, and he felt
Yes.
like that was totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting paid for it too, so
Yeah,
there's that aspect.
yeah. There's a bit of that to Gary. He had these lines that he would draw.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, as we mentioned, this apartment that he moves into with his two friends, Michael and Tim, they become this small criminal enterprise. They began working together. Gary being the leader of the gang. He was an experienced thief and knowledgeable about jewelry and antiques. He always had a thing for antiques.
Yeah,
I don't know where that spawned from, but it seemed like since he was a kid, he was always into old, valuable objects.
I think that was one of the few things he got from his father, was that his father was always trading and buying and going to garage sales and things like that. Much like my dad. That reminded me of my upbringing. Like, I feel like I know the value of a lot of weird things because of my dad, and just being around antiques and just anything of value he was interested in, like my whole life. So yeah, I totally get this. I feel like I would have the knowledge to be a good thief. Like, I know what shit's worth taking, but I just don't want to be a thief.
Right. So
yeah, that
Gary
was very relatable.
Yeah, so Gary became skilled at speaking with antiques dealers and pretending to be a dealer himself, all the while casing the places for ways that he could break in to the establishments, while Michael and Timothy, his two roommates, assisted him. Gary, however, was perhaps too bold or just a bad crook overall, because between the years of 1971 and 1998, he would be arrested 22 times and charged with 15 antiques-related felonies.
Oh, wow.
So, good at stealing the shit, not so good at not getting caught later on.
Right.
I think he's just too bold. He had a bit of honey badger in him. He was just like, I'm doing it. I don't give a fuck. Like, if I get arrested, I get arrested. Whatever. I'll just get out and do it again. That's kind of the vibe he had.
He got a lot of slaps on the wrist, though, man. It's like going to prison wasn't a big deal for him.
Well, early on, I mean, he was doing robberies, which generally, if you're not like harming someone or holding them up at gunpoint, he was like generally breaking into the stores after they were closed and stealing shit and things like that.
Yeah.
He escalates into actual violent crime later and murdering people. These little robberies of stores and things like that, they're only going to get you locked up for so long.
Right. It wasn't enough to deter him.
No, not at all. He would just go to jail short term and learn more tricks from other criminals and come out a better thief.
God, we see that so often, don't we?
Yeah. Yep. On one occasion, Gary was stymied by a shop's alarm system and resorted to tunneling under the outside wall to get in undetected.
That's impressive.
Tunneling under the wall.
hell?
Like I said, he's a honey badger, this guy.
He, no
Literally
doubt.
tunneling under walls now.
Tunneling under a wall of a security. What kind of store was this again? This was it doesn't say, does it?
No,
What type of
it
shop
could have been
was?
like a pawn shop or a jewelry store. I mean, he hit up those kind of places all the time.
Yeah. Man, that's dedication.
Yeah. So Gary's lengthy prison record started on January 13th, 1977, when he was sentenced for a burglary in Essex County and sent to Clinton Correction Facility. He was 23 at this time and was sentenced to 4 years. So he did some legit stints in prison on several occasions.
Oh, yeah.
While in prison for this burglary, his father, Roy, would die from throat cancer, and thus would end that evil bastard's reign of terror over other people. Mm-hmm. Good riddance. Hopefully it was painful. Raping your child and beating your wife. Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
So Gary would be transferred to Great Meadow Correctional Facility and paroled on March 31st, 1980, but was quickly back in jail for possession of stolen property while on parole.
Damn it.
This is just a repeating cycle over and over again.
He just did what? 3 years. 3 years and 3 months. That's what he did.
Gets out and is on parole and starts stealing shit again.
Yeah. Wow.
Now he was still kind of just known in his neighborhood as a thief or whatever, but didn't get any notoriety in the city or nationally until his name first came to public light on June 12, 1980, when he escaped over the wall of Rensselaer County Jail. He somehow got away from custody, fled to the Troy Public Library, where he was apprehended on the ledge of the library while onlookers cheered. This is kind of an infamous group of photos where he's shirtless. He's got like these almost like karate pants tied and like rolled up, and he's just jacked, and he's got like a head. He almost looks like a buff Jesus on the ledge of this library.
He looks like a buff Tommy Chong to me.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good one. For sure. Totally fucking Tommy Chong with the headband. Oh my God, that's
with
great.
the long hair and the beard and
Yeah.
the glasses.
Yeah, Tommy Chong
but
just
he's
started
jacked.
doing steroids.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, so he's on the ledge of this. He got these photos, kind of made him locally popular and infamous, and he ended up getting snatched by a bunch of police and drugged back inside. He was treated as an extreme risk for escape from then on, and was caught planning escapes on more than one occasion. So with the additional charges for escaping, Evans was sentenced on September 11th, 1980 to Clinton Correctional Facility and paroled from the Attica facility on December 29th, 1982. So he ends up spending another 2 years.
Another 2 more years. Yeah.
Yep. And he would be arrested twice more in the following spring and was in county jail until his early release on March 31st, 1984.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So he does
from
2
77 to
years.
84, he spent the majority of those years behind bars.
Yes. That's safe to say. With a few months of freedom in between.
Yeah, just
It's
long
like in
enough
that-
to be on parole and get caught again with more stolen shit.
Yeah, I was about to say in that last little freedom stint, it was only 3 months before he was back in prison again.
So while in jail this time, his other parent died, his mother, in 1983.
This is crazy.
Reports are conflicting a bit. It's alleged that maybe she was at a bar drinking too much, went outside. It was winter. She slipped and hit her head on either the concrete or car bumper, knocking herself unconscious, and then like succumbed to the elements. Cold winter in New York, unconscious, drunk, and maybe
apparently people just
brain
left her out
swelling did
there?
her in, or maybe just being outside in the cold too long. I don't know if maybe nobody discovered her right away and she was left out there overnight.
God. Yeah, I heard
knows,
she hit her head on the bumper of a car. I don't know
Yeah.
whether it was her car or what. But God, what a tragic, just sudden way to lose your mother. You know, even
Right.
even for a criminal, like this had to hit him like a ton of bricks. Mm-hmm. Especially being in jail at this time.
Yeah. Yeah. So he got that early release on March 31st, 1984. And on February 16th, 1985, Gary and his roommate, Michael Falco, burglarized a flea market in East Greenbush, New York.
How dare
About
they?
a week later, Michael Falco became the first known associate of Gary's to disappear. And this would become a reoccurring theme. He successfully convinced local criminals and law enforcement that Falco had fled to California. Meanwhile, the truth was much different than that. The truth was that he had made a homemade silencer for his handgun and shot Michael Falco on the back of the head in their apartment. This came after their other roommate, Tim, had told Gary that a necklace that Gary was asking about that had come up missing, that Michael had taken it and pawned it off or done whatever with it. This enraged Gary, who snuck up behind Michael and shot him in the back of the head in their own apartment. He then rolled up the body in a sleeping bag and disposed of it in a swamp near his sister's home in Lake Worth, Florida. So he drove all the way down to Florida, and he took Tim with him to dispose of this body. You imagine being Tim. Like, you lied and said that this necklace, he had taken it and, given it to his girlfriend, I believe, Tim.
Oh.
And he just got his roommate, their friend, shot in the back of the head, and now he's got to go down to Florida with this monster to dispose of the body that you just made happen.
Well, he's responsible. He should have to go. I hope he's also thinking fuck, I hope Gary doesn't get bad wind about me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I
he
hope
gets
somebody
his
don't
later
lie
on.
about me. Oh yeah, I know.
Yep. Yeah. So meanwhile, Gary and Tim spent a few weeks in Florida hiding out because now their roommate and friend went out missing. And Gary would return from Florida to Troy in April, and on April 21st, 1985, he stole $12,000 from local drug dealers. I love this story. It's actually kind of hilarious.
It is.
So he starts posing as a drug dealer, and these two guys come to buy pot from him, and it's apparently a pretty large amount of pot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much, but you would take at least a pound or two. They bring $12,000 for this drug deal, and so they give him the money, and he says, "All right, the weed's in the trunk of the car." And when they go to the trunk of the car, he takes off on foot, running with their money. He apparently was not just
He's
buff, but
ballsy.
pretty fast because he was able to get away from the two guys and actually went back to where their cars were parked and stole their car. So he steals the 12 grand and then steals their car.
That's freaking brilliant.
It's kind of brilliant, but in a way, this is what gets him caught, just stealing their car. I don't know why he didn't just run back and take his car, because then they were able to report their car stolen to the police. They wouldn't, him stealing their money during a drug deal. Good luck, like calling the police and like they're going to be like, "Why did you have $12,000 to give this guy? What's going on here?"
Yeah, exactly.
But the fact that he stole their car, they reported the car stolen and said that he robbed him or whatever, and this led to a police pursuit because the police caught up with the stolen car with Gary still driving it. He tried to flee from that scene as well and was ultimately taken into custody and was sentenced to another 2 to 4 years in prison, where he would spend this time in Sing Sing prison, where he would meet someone that we've done an episode on, a very famous serial killer, Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. He would meet and become friends with David Berkowitz while at Sing Sing. They would lift weights together, exchange letters while in solitary confinement, letters of which Gary would send to acquaintances as keepsakes. And I think this is kind of hilarious, but because it's just such a silly nickname, and it shows you David Berkowitz was not the brightest guy, but he nicknamed his buddy Gary Evans the Great Tricep King, because they would work out together, and I guess Gary just had such great triceps that was old Berkey's nickname for him.
Very clever. Very clever.
Yep. Good one, Berkowitz.
Yeah, right. Good one, Berkey.
Yep.
Hilarious.
Yeah. All right, you ready to get into some commercials before we get back to the story? And some moitas around the corner.
How about this? This holiday season, instead of giving another thoughtless soap basket, why don't you give your loved ones something as unique as they are? Something like Storyworth. Storyworth is an online service that helps you and your loved ones preserve precious memories and stories for years to come. How, you say? Every single week, Storyworth emails your list of loved ones thought-provoking questions of your choice. Maybe things you would have never thought to ask them. For example, have you ever asked your grandmother what's the bravest thing you've ever done in your life? Or had a discussion with your best friend about what you'd like to find out if you could see into the future? No, you haven't. That's why you need Storyworth. They will compile a year's worth of stories, including photos, into a beautiful keepsake book. I'm looking forward to sharing my keepsake book with my kids, and I'm thankful for the memories that it will keep alive. Reading the weekly stories helps you connect with loved ones no matter how near or far apart you are. Thanks to Storyworth, I found out my great uncle had an affinity for songwriting, just like moi. With Storyworth, I'm giving those I love most a thoughtful, personal gift from the heart and preserving their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/creeper and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/creeper to save $10 on your first purchase.
What's up, creepers? If you've ever wanted to make your home feel safer, there's no better time than now. This week, our friends at Simply Safe are giving True Crime Guys listeners early access to all their Black Friday deals, 50% off their award-winning home security. We love Simply Safe because it has everything you need to make your home safe. Indoor and outdoor cameras, comprehensive sensors, all monitored around the clock by trained professionals who send help the instant you need it. I've been using Simply Safe for over a year now and I love it. The setup was super quick and easy, and the cameras and sensors are really high quality. Luckily, all my cameras have caught so far some wildlife and friends and family coming over, but there's nothing like the peace of mind in knowing that I have sensors on all my doors and windows and cameras covering every angle of my property. Simply Safe was even named Best Home Security System of 2021 by U.S. News and World Report. You can easily customize a system for your home online in minutes and even get free custom recommendations from Simply Safe. These are Simply Safe's biggest discounts of the year. You can get a complete home security system starting at just over $100. There are no long-term contracts or commitments. It's a really easy way to start feeling a bit more peace of mind. So take advantage of Simply Safe's early Black Friday deals and get 50% off your new home security system by visiting simplysafe.com/creeper. Again, that's simplysafe.com/creeper for 50% off your entire system. All right, we're back. So after Gary spent over 3 years in Sing Sing, hanging out with Son of Sam, lifting weights with him, he was paroled on March 1st, 1988. And soon after his release, he would start working with another neighborhood thief named Damian Cuomo. Gary and Cuomo would target a coin and jewelry store in uptown New York, in Watertown, several hours drive away from the Capital District. And this store was owned by a 63-year-old man named Douglas J. Berry. And they planned to hit this jewelry store after it was closed. Right. Unfortunately, when they did it on September 8th, when they broke into this store, Douglas Berry was in the back room sleeping. He maybe just lived in his jewelry store, didn't have a place of his own or whatever.
Right.
But he was awoken when they broke in, prompting Gary to shoot him in the head. and this would be his second murder. Then on December 27th, 1989, less than 4 months after Barry's murder, Cuomo left his apartment with Gary Evans and was never seen alive again. So Gary gets a taste for taking people out, and maybe, like we mentioned earlier, it just seems to be the easiest solution for him when someone he thinks either they're ripping him off or he's worried about maybe them taking him down and putting him in prison again. He just ends their life.
It's the easiest way to tie up loose ends, and it's just becoming easier and easier for him to do this now.
Yeah. It would later come to light that Gary had shot him and buried his body nearby soon after they left Cuomo's apartment. So he goes to pick up Cuomo, and he had planned to kill him that day. He had ultimately handcuffed his hands behind his back and shot him 3 times in the back of the head. And similar to... Go ahead.
I was going to say, what is this about? Did he just not want to share the loot from the jewelry store with Cuomo, or what the hell was this about, you know?
I think this, once again, was something where he thought that the guy was ripping him off somehow. Mm-hmm. Maybe I think maybe they had divvied up the jewelry from the robbery where they killed the 63-year-old man, and Gary didn't get paid out as much as he thought the jewelry was worth from his
That's what
half.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking he just wanted all of it, so he's like, fuck this guy.
Yep. Yeah, and similar to Michael Falco's murder 4 years prior, Gary believed Cuomo had been stealing from him. So yeah, and maybe that he would turn him over to police as well.
Right.
He's a bit paranoid when it came to this stuff. He'd been locked up so many times. I think he was worried about going back to prison. And so anybody
doesn't
that
seem
was
like
a threat to that. I know, right? Because he's still doing these bold
Stop
crimes.
breaking the law, asshole.
But this one, he was attached to a murder with this guy. So
Yeah.
that was a much higher stakes. If this guy turns him in for that robbery, they know that the jewelry store owner had gotten shot. He can't be connected to that specific
That's a
crime.
great point. Maybe as soon as he pulls the trigger and kills the jewelry store owner, he's already thought, I got to kill Cuomo now because he could turn me in and keep all of this jewelry, and I'm going to prison for murder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This next part is fucked up, man. It's bad enough getting murdered, but then the guy that murders you starts like hanging out and banging your girlfriend too. Not cool, bro.
No.
Really not cool. So not long after Gary kills Cuomo, he convinced Cuomo's girlfriend and the mother of his child that Cuomo had abandoned them and fled the area. So he starts calling her and being like, "Hey, have you heard from? What's up with your boyfriend? I heard he like fled the area and left you guys. Obviously he's buried in a hole because Gary had shot him. But barely a month later, they started a relationship together. And over the next several years, Gary would spend much of his time with Cuomo's girlfriend and daughter, who had no idea that he was responsible for his death.
Oh, my God.
That's just like another level of scumbaggery right there.
It really is. It really
Dude is rolling over in his grave right now like, you fucking killed me, and now you're hanging out with my daughter and banging my girlfriend, you fucking piece of shit.
Who knows?
That's the worst.
Cuomo might have been a piece of shit, too, though. Who knows?
Yeah, but damn, man. Like,
Yeah, it's fucked up. Yeah, it's
that
different.
is messed up.
No doubt.
So then in October 1991, Gary spent 2 weeks on the roof of a building in Little Falls, New York, casing a coin and jewelry shop on the first floor, which was owned by Gregory Jobin, who was 36 years old. And on October 17th, 1991, which happens to be that was my 4th birthday.
Oh, wow.
He walked, while my parents were celebrating my 4th birthday, Gary walked into Jobin's shop and asked him for a price of a piece of merchandise. When Jobin bent over to grab the piece of merchandise, Gary shot him to death, shot him in the back of the head. And he'd actually thought enough to put a pillowcase over the gun and like over his hand holding the gun so that the casings would go into the pillowcase and not be left behind at the scene. Pretty clever.
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe that got him caught in another crime or something.
Or yeah.
Who knows?
Or he'd been watching some Law and Order or something.
Oh, he probably learned that shit from being in prison.
Oh, yeah, probably. Good point. Then in 1993, Gary stole over 800 antiques from a shop in Vermont. So just continuing his span of robberies here.
Yep.
And in 1994, this part is hilarious, dude. So he decides he's going to go to a cemetery and bury some like weapons and stuff that were involved in these murders.
Yeah.
And while he's at the cemetery burying like a metal box with some of this incriminating evidence, he sees a bench that just catches his eye at this cemetery.
Gotta
it's like
have
a 1,000-pound bench that he had to have to sell because he saw the value in it. And he uses a freaking engine hoist to get this 1,000-pound bench out and takes it to his fence, the guy that he sells stolen goods to.
Yeah.
who gets nervous about this. Like this bench is, it's recognizable. It's from the Albany Cemetery. So
I'm
the
sure
guy's
it's not,
nervous about it.
I was gonna say, I'm sure it's not the only bench like that in the cemetery. Probably all of the benches in the cemetery are the same, and you just took one. Yeah, 1,000-pound bench. Man, the determination though. This is what we were talking about earlier. The dedication and determination to a crime. To still, with what? I know it says a crane, but you say engine crane, so basically a cherry picker.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm guessing like a cherry picker on wheels, and you just push this thing through the streets back
well,
to
I mean,
wherever.
Pretty much all cherry pickers are on wheels, but how the fuck are you going to move those things? Like it's.
I know.
Even on concrete. I mean, if it's got a 1,000-pound bench, this is crazy. He did this by himself. Did he tie it to his car? I got so many questions. You know what I'm saying?
Dude.
This is
he was the Tricep King, bro. So
he was. I don't care what your triceps look like, bro. Oh my gosh, that's true. Maybe we're underestimating the Tricep King here.
Yeah,
he just pulled that bitch right up out that cemetery.
It's just hysterical to me though to consider like he's burying this metal box and he looks over like, God damn, look at that bench.
Look at that bench.
Have that.
Oh my God.
Right?
I'm just like all the things that you could steal. Like jewelry is so much easier. Why the hell are you going to steal a bench?
Yep.
It baffles me. It's almost like I just picture him sitting in the cemetery going, I think I can do it. I need a challenge. Yeah. I'm fucking bored.
That was probably part of it, right? Like no one else would be willing to steal this bench. They left it here taunting us, knowing that like, oh no, it's 1,000 pounds. No one's gonna be able to take it. And it's like
exactly, no one's gonna take this.
Challenge accepted. Thank you.
I'll be right back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Dude's crazy.
So in early 1994, Gary would agree to assist authorities by obtaining information on. So yeah, he gets arrested for the bench thing because the guy that he takes his stolen goods to gets nervous about this one and turns him into police.
Right.
So he's behind bars yet again in early 1994, but he helps authorities bring down a murderer, Jeffrey Williams, who was implicated on the high-profile murder of his girlfriend Karen Lonzak. Mm-hmm. So this guy had killed his girlfriend, but they didn't. I guess the DA and the prosecutors didn't have enough to take him to trial or whatever. They needed more, so they went to Gary, who was like a cellmate with him, and asked him if he would try and obtain information from Jeffrey Williams to bring him down. And he does. He becomes like an informant, I guess, and gets close to Jeffrey Williams, gets the guy to confess to him, and this helps him get early release. He would be released on February 12th, 1994, with police still unaware that he himself had murdered 4 people. So he's worse than the guy that he just helped police take down.
Right.
He's murdered 4 people. This guy just murdered his girlfriend,
Yeah.
And they're working with him.
Incredible.
Unfortunately for police, they needed him to stay clean because he was important in the murder trial. He was supposed to testify against Williams, but instead, on March 20th, 1994, he stole a valuable book from the local library in Woodstock, Vermont. It was the first American edition of the Havel of London printing of John James Auburn's book Birds of America, and this book was later sold at auction for over $300,000 in 2002.
Oh yeah, he knew what he was doing.
He knew antiques, right? He knows how valuable this freaking book was. Like,
yeah, I mean, even in '94, this book's probably worth $100,000.
How was this book like? How do you? Maybe they had it in a glass case or something at the library. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm like, how is this thing just like it couldn't have just been sitting out, right? It's not on your standard bookshelf in there. It's got to be locked up somewhere.
I would say it was probably in one of those displays, like on a podium with the thick glass around it, and you're looking at it with a light on it. And he was probably in the library, just as anybody can, walking around, and it caught his eye, just like that bench. He's like,
had to have it.
I stole a bench one time. I can easily get this book out of here. This is going to be easy.
Right. This book's light, man. This book's only a few pounds.
I'll just bust this glass, chuck it out the window, jump out the window myself, go get it.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Something Gary would do, man. Dude was insane.
Yeah, so he tried to sell the book through a prison inmate and was turned in and wound up in federal prison for this one. But he ended up receiving a shortened sentence. He keeps getting given breaks,
It's unbelievable. It really is.
And this would end up, resulting in more lives lost, of course. But he gets a shortened sentence for stealing the book because he returned it.
Oh, thank you so much,
You know,
Gary.
just much like the library, you know, if you return the book, you know, the fee's lessened. So,
That's right. Maybe even gone.
yeah. But he would ultimately be released on June 6, 1996. And after his 1996 release, he would be reunited with Tim Reisdorf, the former roommate, the guy that he had killed their other roommate with.
I remember
and
him. He's a
disposed of the body
childhood
in
friend.
Florida. Yep. The guy that had gotten their other friend Michael killed over the whole necklace thing.
That's right.
So they get back together. It's been years, but they're back together, and the gang's back, and they're back doing burglaries together. And in January of
right.
1996 or 1997, they hit a shop in Great Barrington, Massachusetts, for $80,000 in merchandise. But the following July, Gary would sell antique jewelry in Albany, which police later linked to the Great Barrington burglary that he had done with Tim. So
Damn it, Gary.
back in jail again. But he gets out, and he's on probation, and he jumps probation on October 3rd, 1997. And earlier the following morning, Tim made a phone call to his wife, and this would end up being the last call that he'd ever make to her. He was never seen again after that. That morning, Gary would shoot Tim Reisdorf to death in a storage locker. So they went to this storage locker where they had a bunch of their stolen goods, and this was planned out on Gary's part. And
Very much so.
when Tim had his back turned, Gary shot him from behind 3 times in the back of the head, then dismembered his body with a chainsaw,
Oh my.
which seems just unnecessarily messy to me.
I was just about to say the mess that would have caused.
Blood spatter everywhere,
Oh,
right?
my
Like,
God.
yeah. I mean, this isn't.
Maybe he took him out into the woods, or somewhere and did it. But still, you would still have blood splatter all over the place in the woods. And,
Yeah. If you're
and
going
it
to
would
do
attract
that,
animals and everything else.
if you're going to dismember somebody with a chainsaw, you got to do it like they did in Scarface in a bathtub, where you can just rinse it all down afterwards, all the spatter everywhere.
Yeah. Oh gosh. But it's still getting all over the ceiling and the walls and shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, it's a mess.
So he dismembers Tim's body with the chainsaw. Then he puts the parts in trash bags and buried them in a shallow grave. For somebody who was the Tricep King, he never dug any like legit graves. They were always 3 feet. Everybody knows you got to go 6 feet.
He's got better things to do, man.
Yeah, I guess.
He's got better things to do. He's got another store to hit up and rob later today.
Yeah, so much like the other murders,
ambitious.
Gary had suspected Tim of stealing from him, and also he finally started to put things together and claim he finally realized that Tim had tricked him into thinking that Michael had stolen from him 13 years prior, and and so it was payback time.
You know what? He probably already figured that shit out, and he was like, "I'm just going to use Tim to pull off one more heist, and then I'm going to kill his ass anyways."
Yeah, that's possible.
All that year, all that time he spent in prison, Lauren. He had plenty of time to think and sort that shit out himself.
Yep. Yeah, and even if he thought there was just an inkling of chance that had been the case, it's like,
that's
he's the
enough.
type that's like, why take the risk? Let's just kill this motherfucker.
Let's just kill this guy. Yeah, he probably did me wrong, and if not, at least I know he won't.
Yeah, exactly. So this would be the undoing, though, for Gary when it comes to him being able to just go around murdering people left and right and get away with it, and only being taken down for the petty crimes that he did, the burglaries and things like that. The timing of Gary
Right.
jumping probation and Tim Reisdorf's disappearance were too coincidental for police to overlook. It caused authorities to suspect that Tim was dead and that Gary was involved. So he skips out on his probation, and all of a sudden his good friend and criminal partner goes missing. So they would begin a nationwide manhunt that lasted almost 8 months. Meanwhile, Gary was documenting his time on the run. This is what caught my eye with this case. I saw this picture online somewhere of this interesting looking man in a grave, like in a concrete coffin, if you will. In the dirt, like flipping off the camera. And this was one of the photos that he had mailed to his girlfriend, among others, during the time that he was on the run from the police. Then in these 8 months, he was sending. He had this camera with a tripod, and he was sending these photos documenting his time on the run, and in a way taunting police. And so this infamous photo of him, he's laying in a concrete coffin, and he wrote a note to go along with the photo, and it says, quote, "For everyone who wants me caged or dead," and it's him flipping off the camera.
He's wearing some cut off jean shorts. Some jorts.
Yep.
He's got the jorts and a graphic tee. Looks like he's got a wristband on or something.
Yep.
He does. He does look like a skateboarder, though, doesn't he? I know he skateboarded some as a kid. He still kind of has that punk look.
He was too muscular to be a skateboarder, though. There was.
Oh yeah, he broke some boards, bro.
Right.
He broke some. He's the kid that like tried to do a kickflip 3 times and then snapped his board over his knee.
Yep. Yeah. So the police are on the, looking for him in relation to Tim's death. And he's on the run for 8 months. Finally, however, with the aid of Damian Cuomo's girlfriend, the man of which he'd murdered as well, they finally caught up with Gary. Do you think she's starting to realize now at this point, like, this dude I've been hanging out with all this time, he's been around my daughter. He's now like, the police are looking at him in connection to murdering my husband's friend as well. Like, did he kill my husband as well? And he's been hanging out with me.
Right.
So she helps him the police find him. On May 27th, 1998, Gary was arrested without incident near St. Johnsbury, Vermont, near where he was living in a tent as a survivalist. He's totally got a survivalist vibe, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He totally could be one of those guys that could just like live in the woods by himself for years and people wouldn't even know.
Oh yeah, you probably eat like fucking cockroaches,
squirrels and shit,
mushrooms and shit. Yeah, squirrels.
Organic, bro.
Oh, of course.
Although he doesn't eat meat.
He's vegetarian.
He doesn't eat meat, so he'd have to just be finding berries and stuff.
Yeah, he's just eating berries and certain greens that grow wild.
Mm-hmm. So they catch up with him on June 18th, 1998. Gary surprised them by confessing to all 5 murders. So they wanted to know what happened with Tim, but he comes clean to 5 murders, and would even help police in recovering all 3 bodies of his former partners in crime, including Falco's in Florida. He also admitted to the murders of the 2 jewelry store owners, Barry and Jobin. He would be indicted for murder on August 12th, 1998, for the deaths of Falco, Cuomo, and Reisdorf, the 3 guys that he had partnered up with in these crimes. Because Tim's murder occurred after New York reinstated the death penalty in 1995, Gary was eligible to be executed for his crimes as well. So the following day, he would be arraigned on another account of murder in Little Falls for killing Gregory Jobin, the jewelry store owner. And then the day after his Little Falls arraignment, he was being transported from Rensselaer County to Albany Court. And this is another instance that made him very well known because he was not going to go quietly.
No.
Unbeknownst to authorities, Gary had a handcuff key that he had attained somehow and shoved deep into his sinus cavity. So deep, in fact, that it would have taken surgery to remove it. They would later find out.
God.
But he had 2 keys. Somehow he had 2 handcuff keys, and he managed to free his hands while in the police van, despite being in manacles and chained. They say police van, but this is a Dodge Astro van.
Yeah, a Chevy Astro van.
Yeah, a Chevy Astro van, sorry,
Yeah.
And it was like green. It didn't look like a police van. It just looked like your average work van or family
just
van.
a regular old van. And he kicked the middle window out, the big one that's in the sliding door.
Yeah. Yeah, so he frees his hands. He kicks out the window. When they reached the Troy Manans Bridge, he waited. He timed it to where he would have an escape route. He times it to where they're going over a bridge. He's already got his hands free, and he kicks out the big window in the middle, and jumps out of the van and starts running. And when police corner him, he's standing on the edge of the bridge. He flips them off before leaping off the bridge. And do you think he was knowing that he was going to die here, or do you think he thought the water was deeper? I think the fact that he had the key and he had a razor blade stuffed up his nose as well. I think he was planning. This was an escape plan.
I think it was an escape plan as well.
Jump into the water, swim to the shore, and then later on use the razor blade and the key to free, carve away at his chains or whatever and free himself.
Right, but unfortunately the water was only like a foot deep. So
yeah, he jumped 60 feet into a foot of water, and naturally that did him in. Mm-hmm. So when authorities retrieved his body, they found the handcuff key stuffed up his nose and a razor blade taped to his ankle. Oh, the razor blade wasn't up his nose; it was taped to his ankle. Okay.
Yeah, that would have been brutal. Oof.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now there are some articles and some resources that say that the razor blade was up his nose, but it wasn't. It was taped to his ankle. But he did have a key way up there.
Yeah. So a number of acquaintances, including Evan's lawyer and investigator Jim Horton, who had known him since the 1970s when they investigated the robberies, later stated that Gary had planned to kill himself long before the incident, having sent them suicide notes in which he expressed remorse and his inability to deal with isolation. So it's kind of, I don't know. I think there's a decent chance that this was a suicide. He knew he was jumping into a foot of water or whatever.
Yeah.
Because he also did leave a note with his attorney as well, which would allude to that. He'd sent this letter to his attorney, and after his attorney heard about his passing, he opened it, and the message was, on to a better place now, ending with "I win." So that was the last words that he wrote, were "I win."
Wow. Yeah, I guess in a way you did things your way, Gary.
Yeah.
You did things your way. That's for sure.
Some also speculated that in the last months of his life, he was paranoid of possibly getting the death penalty and was going to be executed via lethal injection, which contradicted his beliefs that no one should ever take drugs via injections.
Oh God. Really?
Very almost biblical there, like religious seemingly, like you're not going to invade my body with your foreign objects or whatever. Like
Right. That's the hill he decides to die on. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, but once again, like he had these women that stood by him, and there's actually photos online of two women that he touched their lives, Bernadette and Kathy. They were friends of Gary's. There's a photo of them embracing on the bridge where he jumped off and leaving balloons, flowers, and cookies on August 13th, 1998, not long after he jumped off that bridge. And one of the messages they had was, quote, "I love Gary. Rest now, my man, always in my heart. Kathy and the girls." He's a quandary, this guy.
Yeah, he is. I mean, and you can't blame these people for missing him. He was good to them.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've caught a lot of hate online of, why are you mourning a killer? This guy was a shitbag. This guy was a scumbag. He was this, that piece of shit. But I mean, if he wasn't to you, he wasn't to you. You know what I'm saying? Like if he had people that's what makes him so complex. That's what makes this story interesting, even in the least. He's not, It's not just a career criminal and here's some things that went wrong. He also had this side of him that was so strange. So kind, you know what I'm saying? And like he cared for kids, he cared for the women in his life, I guess. Maybe a little too much sometimes. Maybe he cared for women that weren't his. But a weird dude, man. Not like any other serial killer.
Maybe it's hard for them to maybe put themselves in the shoes of the loved ones of the jewelry store owners that did nothing other than like just Gary came into their lives and ended these completely innocent men's lives. They were just working at a jewelry store and he just shot them in the back of the head for no reason,
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like the other guys that were partners in crime with him. They're still victims, but they were also knew that they were around a very dangerous man and working with him, and they definitely put themselves in danger.
Right, and they were benefiting from this dangerous man as well.
Yeah.
So you have to take that in consideration. You really do.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't even see him as a serial killer still. I know he killed 5 people, but in the way that he did it, it just doesn't seem serial killer to me. It's just like, kind of like you wouldn't call Tookie Williams a serial killer, but yet he's killed enough people to be a serial killer. I feel like this guy fits in the same vein. He kind of did what he thought he had to do, to get by, to live that criminal lifestyle, to get back at people who wronged him, to make sure he wasn't being taken advantage of.
Yeah, but I mean, he technically fits the definition of a serial killer, but I think when we think serial killer, we think of people that get off on killing, that they do it for pleasure, whether it's sexual or they just enjoy the act of killing, whereas him, it was more just a tactile thing. It was, a means to an end, or like just trying to avoid detection of the law or for a little bit of money or whatever.
Yeah, to him, it was just logical kills. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't call any kill logical, but that does seem, to him, that was his reasoning. He's pretty easy to figure out. You know what I'm saying? But the escape and the crazy shit that he stole, still in the bench, I mean, that made him episode worthy right there. That shit's crazy.
Yeah, right.
Escaping prison, sending flipping the cops the bird and his photos while he's on the run. Like, yeah, that stuff, that's crazy. Absolutely insane. The guy is a stuff of legend. He's a shit. Yeah. He's a shitbag, but he's stuff of legend, I guess.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. Worth
Hell
doing an
yeah, he
episode
is.
on.
Yeah, man. I wonder what kind of deodorant he wore. You think he went all natural with his deodorant too?
I don't think he seemed to me like the type that didn't wear deodorant. He seemed like he was, he looked like he had BO. He looked like one of those guys.
Yeah, he did. To be honest, he could have used some Oh My Gaia for
He
sure.
was a hairy dude, really hairy, and I think
Yeah.
he liked to put out those male pheromones or whatever.
Well, he could have put out some lumberjack, bro. Get him some leather.
Oh, he should have.
what?
I'm not saying
Yeah.
that he was doing the right thing. No one wants to smell your fucking stinky BO, bro.
No. And lucky for you guys, no one has to because there's Oh My Gaia. Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. And at Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. Guys, like we alluded to, there's tons of scents to choose from. You don't got to smell like BO. You could smell unscented if you like, or you could smell like vanilla or cherry almond or sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, one of my favorites, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot amber, pear, sweet pea, sailor, another great scent, barbershop, and just for true crime guys, Oh My Gaia has created the scent True Crime Pine. If you don't know where to start, that's a great place to start for your first order. And because you're True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper for 15% off your order. That's CREEPER for 15% off your order at shop_Oh My Gaia on Instagram or ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com. And guys, we also excited to bring you another local small bit, or not local, but another small business who is the creator,
Longtime
of this
listener
business.
of the show, longtime supporter of the show. The
Yes.
Michelle K. She runs the Facebook group, the closed Facebook group, which we don't mention enough anymore. But yeah, we have
really
a closed
don't.
Facebook group that's just for creepers. It's a place where you can all gather together and be, with like-minded individuals. You can share funny true
Right.
crime memes or whatever you want to do on there. She's been running that page for years now, and she also has a small business that she's running that she's now wanting us to advertise, and we are happy to do so because she has some beautiful products on her Etsy page.
Absolutely, guys. The time, the effort, the creativity that are put into these projects is unmatched, and we would expect nothing less from Michelle K. This company is called River Hill Creative Studio. River Hill Creative Studio specializes in one-of-a-kind handmade polymer clay jewelry. Michelle K., owner of River Hill Creative Studio, has been a crafter for decades, but only recently discovered her love for jewelry making. Her polymer clay obsession began in March of 2021, and in just 9 months, she has made over 100 sales and has received nothing but 5-star reviews. New designs dropped often, and new forms of art, including pins and vinyl stickers, will be added in the near future. So check out the goods at riverhillcreative.etsy.com and follow on Instagram too, at riverhillcreative. For the month of November, River Hill Creative Studio is running a contest. Anyone who makes a purchase from the Etsy store now through the end of November will be entered into a drawing to win a $50 gift certificate, good towards any River Hill Creative Studio purchase. And you don't have to use social media to be eligible. You just have to make a purchase. It's that easy. Again, that's riverhillcreative.etsy.com and at riverhillcreative on Instagram. Guys, there'll be links to this below the description of this episode. And because you guys are TCG listeners, you can get 10% off your order by using the code CREEPER. You got it, CREEPER, for 10% off your order at riverhillcreative.etsy.com or at riverhillcreative on Instagram.
There's really beautiful stuff on there. I'm on her store
Gorgeous
page
stuff.
right now. Beautiful handmade earrings. I might have to
Yeah.
get something for my mom and my wife, honestly.
Yeah, beautiful stuff, guys. Check the links down in the description. Give her a follow on Instagram. You won't regret working with Michelle K. She's an amazing person, and she has an amazing business.
110 sales, 5 stars.
Incredible.
Yeah, can't beat
Incredible.
that. All right, I want to take a minute to thank those who've gone and rated. We've had a mishap recently. All of our ratings on iTunes got wiped out. We're trying to get them back. Michael's working with Apple. I don't know if you guys noticed last week we weren't on Spotify for a day or two. There was a mishap with our RSS feed. It's been resolved since, but there's been some after effects and like losing reviews and stuff. We do have one new review on Apple. I want to thank Pendlewick for a beautiful 5-star review. Says, super smashing, great. This is a little different from my other podcast. I like a range of true crime to history, and it's all about the storytelling for me and absolutely horrific attempts at British accents.
Fair enough.
Also, I was hooked from the first episode of True Crime Guys that I heard, which was the Tin Man. It was good. Also, you're definitely a new listener because that was our episode we did before this, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, the banter and the storytelling between Lauren and Michael is very engaging. They take the time to remind us of the victims' lives and stories. Really enjoy listening while working in my home workshop. No more freeloading for me. Going to get that banter too. Hell yeah! So that leads us right into our Patreon, patreon.com/True Crime Guys. You get a bunch of more content on there. If you've listened to all of our stuff on the free feed, you got a lot more available to you if you go to patreon.com/True Crime Guys. $2 a month gets you access to our once a month Patreon only episode, which is next week, by the way. Next week you won't get an episode on our free feed. You're gonna have to go to Patreon for that one. But also at the $5 tier, you get another podcast that Michael and I do together where we just hang out and answer listener questions. It's anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour every week. It's called Just the Banter. Mm-hmm. We shoot the shit. We talk about a lot of stuff that doesn't involve true crime. You get to know us a little bit better. Yep. You get to be a part of the community on Patreon as well. Like you get to be involved in some cool stuff. Like we do a fantasy football league just with Patreon listeners. All kinds of stuff. You get to be very interactive with us on there.
Absolutely. We just released episode 53 of Just the Banter. So lots of bantering to be unlocked on Patreon.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? Strange and unexplained.
Yep.
Guys, if you're all caught up, if you're a patron of True Crime Guys, you're caught up on all that content. We have other shows as well on our network now. Check out Strange and Unexplained wherever you listen. New episodes come out every Monday. It's where we focus on unsolved, missing persons, strange phenomena, things like that. Stuff that we don't typically talk about on True Crime Guys. We try to keep them solved and, completed here on True Crime Guys. Whereas we like to do a little bit of speculation. Me and Lauren both do our own research for Strange and Unexplained. I give you the facts and then my opinion, and then you get to hear Lauren's synopsis towards the end of the episode. And Lauren does his own studying and comes with his own opinions and thoughts on the episode, which is pretty cool. I really like to do that. It's my first time hearing Lauren's synopsis is when I record the episode as well. So I get to give honest feedback on what Lauren thinks. It's a fun way to do a podcast, we think. But Strange and Unexplained, wherever you guys listen. As well as the Fantasy Football Podcast.
Yeah, I also have a fantasy football podcast I do. If you're into fantasy, check it out. It's called Full House Fantasy Podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. I do it with my buddy Tori every week. We break down, what happened the prior week in fantasy and what to look forward to moving, who to pick up, who to trade, who to start and sit, all those things. You can ask us questions, fullhousefantasy@football@gmail.com. Send us your start sit questions, your trade questions, things like that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that about does it, guys.
And guys, go give all those shows a review. Go give Fantasy Podcast a review, and go make sure if you're listening on Spotify, please give us a follow. That is the number one way to get your podcast promoted on Spotify. They only go by follows over there. So if you guys are listening and you're not following as a podcast artist on Spotify, please do that. We appreciate that very much.
With our feed, with our feed mishap last week, we're not so sure that we have all the same. If you thought you were subscribed and you were before, it may have unsubscribed you when we had that mishap. So whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever platform you use, double check that you're still subscribed to our show, please. That definitely,
yes, please do.
Yeah, that definitely kind of screwed with things, but we have no doubt that you guys are back. You're coming back, even if you couldn't find us, you'll find us again. But thank everybody for the support, and we'll see you on Patreon next week. And if you're not a Patreon member, that's fine. We'll see you the following week for another set of 3 freeloader episodes. Have a great week, guys.
Wait. We got one more thing, man. We got to wish somebody a happy birthday.
Oh, that's right.
Mike Spoon. We want to give Mike Spoon a big old True Crime Guys happy birthday. Mike
Happy
Spoon
24th,
from Austin,
Mike.
Texas. Yes, 24 years old, you amazing, handsome looking man.
Yes, Sasha says you're beautiful. I haven't seen you, so I can't speak to that myself. But
I'm sure you are, though.
I'm sure her taste, is judging that she loves our show. She must have great taste, and I'm sure you're very striking individual.
That's right. A great male specimen, right. Mr. Mike Spoon.
I'm sure your triceps are even better.
That's right.
Than Gary.
I'm sure you're the real Tricep King, Mike Spoon.
Have a great birthday, dude.
Yep.
All right, guys. Keep creeping. See you next week.
Keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder, get murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.